The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, February 24th. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week. Tomorrow I leave for London, so I'm on a flight tomorrow afternoon. I think I'm going to be able to squeeze in a show before I head to the airport. We will see. Hopefully TSA Pre still exists. Supposedly it's still up there, up and running. Department of Homeland Security threatened to do away with TSA Pre, I think over the weekend, but I think they backed out of that, realizing the chaos that would create for me anyway. So if TSA Pre is around, then I have enough time to do a show tomorrow. So there will be a show tomorrow, and then I'm off to London. Which reminds me, if you're in London, you haven't signed up to the seminar I'm doing on capitalism, you should. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a small group, a lot of back and forth, a lot of questions answered. It'll be an intimate group. You can ask me about anything, but we can talk about capitalism, finance, anything you guys want. And I'll obviously have material prepared, but very much I'll let you guys guide it. I'm looking for a handful more people to join us. So it's definitely happening. 3-4 more people would be fantastic. So if you know, we'll also go out to dinner afterwards as well. So it's time to socialize and just hang out. So hopefully you guys are interested and will sign up. You can check it out on yaronbrookshow.com, yaronbrookshow.com, and yaronbrookshow.com, and then just scroll down to events. And then February 28th, which is Saturday, February 28th in London. And there's a link there to getting the ticket. And that'll take you to Eventbrite. And there you'll have all the detailed information. It's basically going to be at a hotel in Leicester Square, the W Hotel, so right in the middle of town, easy to get to. All the subway stops are there. And underground, not subway. And join us. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, tonight, big deal. Tonight is the most boring speech of the year. Every year we get a boring speech by the sitting president. It's usually long, boring, and pretty stupid. But this year promises to be the most boring, the stupidest, the longest State of the Union address in American history. Donald Trump is going to be up on stage giving the State of the Union address to a joint meeting of Congress, although some Democrats have said they won't be attending. The Supreme Court will be there, right in the front row. The Supreme Court will right there as Donald Trump gets red and angry and mad at the Supreme Court. He'll probably point at them and yell at them and wag his finger at them. That should be fun. Just for that, it might be worth watching. But it is, he has said, Donald Trump today said that the speech will be long. Last year was 90 minutes. I think it was the longest ever. It was 90 minutes. So if he's saying it's long, does that mean it's longer than the 90 minutes that he already stated it would be? God, it's going to be long. It's going to be a litany of how amazing he is. We all know that already. How amazing the economy is. We all know that already. And all the things that the government is going to do for you. All the ways it's going to do price controls and regulate and tariff and tax. Well, tax is not for you. But anyway, all the ways in which it's going to make things better for you. In particular, the issue of affordability is going to come up. So any kind of price caps on interest you pay on credit cards, caps on mortgages, caps on everything. You will get the full array of socialist policies to try to get prices down, rent control on steroids. That'll be the message tonight. We are here from the government, and we're here to help. And because it's me, Donald Trump, it'll work this time. And you guys might buy it. I don't know. Am I going to watch it? Am I going to watch it? No way in hell am I watching this live. I'll probably watch it after the fact, probably watch it tomorrow morning at 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed or something like that. There's no way I'm going to waste an hour and a half of my life or 2 hours of my life. Who knows how long this will be on watching this. I'll either read it tomorrow, or if I want to get some of the fun nuance of Donald Trump yelling at people, I'll watch it, but I'll watch it at 2 times speed. Watching Donald Trump at 1 time speed is annoying enough. Watching Donald Trump is annoying enough. So you want to get it over as fast as you can. So I will watch it, or I'll read it, and so I will have comments tomorrow on the State of the Union. But yes, be ready to be told how wonderful things are, and how wonderful he is, and how wonderful he's going to make it all through government interference and government intervention. This is not going to be a speech about more liberty, more freedom, more markets. That is the solution of things. If you watch it live, what's the term? God help you or something like that. Whatever. The Spirit be with you. Something like that. Because I don't know how you can tolerate it. But some of you love Donald Trump, so you guys think he's fantastic. I am not taking one for the YBS team. I don't know who is. Is somebody taking for the YBS team? No. I'll take it at 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed. 2 times speed sounds right. The content is repetitive and meaningless anyway. All right. So yesterday, the stock market took a real beating. I mean, the NASDAQ was down, S&P 500 is down, bank stocks were down like 4%. I mean, yeah, the market just got crushed, and some stocks took a real beating, like IBM was down 13%. That is the biggest drop IBM has had in one day since 2000. And a bunch of other stocks, KKR, private equity, went down a lot, and just all over the map. And initially, when I look at the market, I said, okay, this is tariff uncertainty. But it didn't make any sense. Why would IBM go down? It's not clear how tariffs affect IBM. And KKR wouldn't be affected by tariffs. What's going on here? So it turns out that it wasn't just tariffs. I'm sure tariffs had a intensifying impact on the stock market. But there was more that was going on. And here's the story, and it's somewhat a bizarre story. But the reality is that yesterday, a company or a blogger that blogs under Citrini Research published a piece called The 2028 Global Intelligence Crisis. This is a piece kind of describing how AI is going to change the world, and not from an economic, financial perspective, not for the better, and ultimately going to lead to a massive crash and collapse in the market. I guess it's 2 bloggers wrote this. I don't know much about Citrini Research, but they're the ones who wrote this and distributed yesterday. And they say in the thing. Let me find the exact. Where is this? This is what they say. Right at the bottom. What follows is a scenario, not a prediction. So they're not even presenting this as this is what we predict will happen. This is a possibility. And basically, the prediction or the scenario goes like this. Over the next few months, AI is rapidly going to start replacing white-collar jobs. It'll start with software, but it'll also go into financial services, banking. AI agents will start replacing those jobs. People start getting laid off. Now, the initial consequence of this will be profits will go up dramatically, according to this scenario. Profits will go up dramatically because costs is just being cut significantly, which will allow companies to invest more in AI and in getting rid of more white-collar jobs. And over the next 2 years, employment in white-collar jobs is going to plummet. That is going to lead unemployment to go from what it is right now at 4-point-something% to over 10%. But the thing is that it's not just any unemployment. These are going to be high-earning jobs. These are going to be white-collar, high-earning people who are losing their jobs. The consequence of all these people losing their jobs is they stop consuming. Now, we are told the consumption is 70% of the economy. So that will lead to a collapse in demand, and therefore a lot of companies are going to really struggle. But this is just a self-reinforcing, as in order to cut costs, they will introduce AI and lay off more people. And you get this constant process of people losing jobs and no jobs really being created. And over time, and this happens in Wall Street and in any kind of job where you can see that is easily replaceable by AI. It probably happens to some doctors. It happens to bankers. You could make all loan decisions by algorithm. It happens to, why do we need real estate agents? Almost everything that a real estate agent could be done could be automated. And all of this, over time, goes away, destroys jobs, employment collapses, and demand collapses, and the economy really struggles at the same time as companies become more and more profitable because their cost structure is smaller, the cost of producing is lower, and all of this is leading to basically a depression. Like you get what they call ghost GDP. GDP is going up, but human beings are not benefiting from it, except for the people who own the AI companies. And as they say in one of these passages, machines don't consume anything. So you have record-setting corporate profits that are going back into AI, but nobody's being employed. And ultimately, the economy is slowly collapsing as nobody can afford to buy anything. There's a sense in which this leads to some kind of financial crisis. You could imagine certain financial institutions collapsing, really hit hard. For example, they say American Express is hit hard. They have the headwinds from white-collar workforce reductions, gutting its customer base, and agents, routing around interchange. So basically the business model is gone. People can transfer money directly. The agents can do all of it. American Express took a beating yesterday because it's named in the article. And indeed, all the, like MasterCard is named in the article. All these companies that were named in the article are the ones that take the biggest hit. Think about it. If our agents are out there buying and selling stuff for us, and the agents have direct access to our bank accounts, and direct access to the bank account of the person we're buying stuff from, then you can see why MasterCard is history. All financial intermediation is gone. Facilitating exchange through credit cards is useless. Think about the idea that I have an agent, a Yaron purchasing agent, and I send that Yaron purchasing agent to go buy stuff. Why? They don't have to go to Amazon. They can go to the people providing the stuff to Amazon, and they can go buy it directly. I won't do that because I don't have the time to go sift through all the different stores and look at all the different stores and all the different products and where's the best price. But if I have an AI agent, the AI agent can go and search, and Amazon, who is an intermediary really between people who manufacture goods and me, I can go directly to the manufacturer. I don't need an Amazon. And you can see how, jobs just get destroyed left and right. Jobs are disappearing. And, we might have stable coins or some kind of crypto, and everything is settled that way. So you don't need credit cards, you don't need banks. This is why banks went down. I think the bank index, the regional bank index, went down 4% yesterday. No news about banking. No really news even about interest rates. Well, I mean, the long-term rate went down, so the yield curve is less steep, which means banks make less money. So there was some reason for banks to go down a little bit, but here they went down 4%. I mean, it made no sense because these guys came up with a scenario, not even a prediction, whereby banking becomes irrelevant. Again, jobs collapse, and it's a vicious circle. And basically, in the past and in the present, there is an intelligence premium, right? We pay people for their intelligence, for their brain. But AI is replacing those brains. It's replacing that intelligence. So what are we paying people for? What are we paying them for? Now, it's true that you might find more other types of jobs that computers can't do yet, robots can't do yet, but those are mainly manual labor. And they pay a lot less. So you're taking somebody who's making $200,000 as a programmer, and now you're paying them $50,000. That is not good. Not good. Right? And, you know, and maybe there's a lot of Ubers, although I don't know why there would be Ubers. They use Uber as an example, but I think Uber is one of the first things that disappear because you've got Waymo and you've got Teslas and you've got self-driving cars. Why would we even have Uber? Of course, the more people go into Uber because they don't have a job, the lower the price. The higher the supply, the lower the price on the Ubers, and they can't make any money. So you see, wages are suppressed, jobs don't exist, and it's a constant chain. Anyway, it's a long article explaining all this in detail. It's written from the perspective of I'm sitting in June 2028 looking backwards at what's happened over the last 2.5 years, how we got to where we got. And this caused the stock market to go down a huge amount yesterday, particularly the stocks that I mentioned. So first, in terms of the stock market, first, there's nothing new in this piece. There's nothing new. It feeds on fears that have been spreading around the markets for months now, and particularly in the last few weeks, about whether companies, how susceptible companies are to be disrupted by AI. So there's nothing new in the piece. Why did it have such a profound effect? I think this is a meme stock phenomena. This is people, not the pros, this is people getting really excited about this, really panicking about this, and running to implement it, and not being professionals. They don't know exactly how to implement it. So they just take the examples they give in the article, which is a complete scenario, not even a prediction, right? So they're just making up the companies that these are the things that came to their mind as maybe possibilities. And those companies get hit the hardest. It's just pretty pathetic, really. But this is kind of a meme stock phenomena, not buying, but selling like crazy. Those stocks that these guys are saying might be significantly affected by this complete collapse of the U.S. economy as a result of AI. Now, the reality is, as I said, anxiety about the future of AI is out there. Everybody's trying to figure out what this means. Was it last week, the CEO of Anthropic or something said that Claude is going to replace programmers, and a lot of the software company stocks went down. They then recovered because not so fast, guys. This isn't going to happen so fast. And it's not so much that they're going to replace programmers, at least not in the early stages. It's going to be that these programmers are going to become so much more productive because they're going to be using AI. And generally, while the general trend long term of these jobs being replaced is true, it will happen. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. We'll get to that in a minute. It doesn't happen quickly. And nobody knows how it's going to happen. The one thing we can be certain about what's happening with AI and how AI will change business and change our economy is that we don't know how it's going to do either one of those. A lot of different scenarios are going to play out. A lot of different models will be tried. And some jobs will get lost at different paces. But generally, job losses will happen slower than one would expect. There's a stickiness to jobs. I mean, for how many years have we heard, at least 30, since really the beginning of the internet, that real estate agents are history, right? Because software will match buyers and sellers. You'll go to Zillow. I mean, you can go to Zillow. You can check you don't need a realtor to check their proprietary database. The proprietary database is online. And yet, not only do real estate agents exist, they still are charging those ridiculous, unbelievable fees, and people are paying them. We don't need to. The contracts are not that complicated. You could find a house on Zillow yourself. You don't have to go through an agent. Now, there are all kinds of institutional legal barriers that make it very difficult to do these things without an agent, and some states have laws protecting them. But that's all true, even with AI. In other words, job losses, for good and for bad reasons, will happen much slower than what people think. Much slower. And in very unpredictable ways. When it comes to software, for example, the reality is that there's no end to the number of software jobs that are possible, right? Software generally, I think somebody wrote, and I think it's probably true, software generally sucks. You're constantly tinkering with it. You're constantly changing it. You're constantly improving it. I mean, there's so much work to be done to make software really good. And it's like, it's an endless process of making it really good and improving it. And yes, it's absolutely true that AI will make that so much more efficient and faster. But somebody is still going to have to guide the process. And this is why I think AI does more to increase the productivity, enhance the productivity of the programmers than it does in completely replacing them. Somebody has to figure out that the software is not good. The software is not good by a human standard, not by a standard of AI. AI doesn't know what good and what not good is. You need a human being to use the software to be able to tell you, yeah, this sucks. Think about all the legacy software that could be rewritten really fast with AI to replace, I don't know, you remember, you know how many programs, particularly in financial services and other places, are written in COBOL or Fortran? Nobody knows how to program COBOL and Fortran anymore. So yes, if you're a Fortran and COBOL programmer, AI is going to do your job, but somebody has to be able to guide AI and figure out if they're doing a good job or not. And somebody's going to have to figure out how to replace all that software with something modern and better, and how to transition. And how there's a huge number of jobs. I programmed in BASIC. I used to know BASIC really, really well. I programmed in Fortran, BASIC, and DBase. So all of this is blown out of proportion, exaggerated, and it's also just bad macroeconomics or microeconomics. People lose their jobs. What are they going to do? Just sit on their hands? There's no more work. But there's a lot of capital because companies are making a lot of money. It's not clear, by the way, how companies are making a lot of money, because it's true that costs are going down, but who the hell is buying the products if nobody has a job? And so the whole thing is a little contradictory. But what are they going to do? What are all these white-collar smart people going to do once these jobs are gone? Well, they're going to start thinking about doing things that add value. They're going to start thinking about doing things that are fun and interesting. They're going to be able to escape the drudgery of so many of the jobs that we have out there. I mean, so much of our life today, the life of people out there, is managing databases. But you know, people will start being able to do what they're passionate about. Whether that is, somebody still has to make judgments. There's still a whole lot of work to be done in relationships and in psychology, in creativity, solving real problems and providing a human touch. We'll have a lot more entertainers. There'll be a lot more money to be made in human-to-human stuff that AI just can't do. I mean, look at how many people today make a living on YouTube and on TikTok and places like that. That was impossible 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Influencer was not a career that existed. I mean, can we even imagine what careers are going to come in the future? Now, it's not clear they'll have more leisure time, because it's not clear that they'll want it, but it's also not clear that the jobs are paying enough, according to the naysayers. But people will be in a position to actually think outside the box and consider new options and different professions, and different entrepreneurship will skyrocket. People will start businesses. And new products and new services and new things will appear that I can't imagine, because that's just not me, right? It's going to need entrepreneurs. It's going to need the capitalists. It's going to need the process as we know it. So yes, we're in for upheaval. And the one thing that worries me is government intervening and stepping in and thinking that they're needed in order to solve problems, and in order to soften the landing, and in order to allocate capital to the right use. And there are a lot of economists I see writing, yes, there'll be, the AI companies will make a lot of money, and then we'll tax them and use that taxes to build big infrastructure projects. Oh my God, no, please, no, save us from infrastructure projects. Save us from, the Roosevelts of the world. FDRs. We could really use fewer FDRs, not more FDRs. What we need are more entrepreneurs. What we need is for that capital, to seek out profit opportunities. Because, in some of these things, the profit opportunities in AI will be driven to zero. That's the other thing they don't take into account. That a lot of these companies are going to be competitive. They won't be able to charge a lot. So what happens to prices in a world like this? Prices go down. It's not clear profits go up. Prices go down. Everything becomes more affordable. So you can live better on making less. So many different things are going on here. Now, it's true, and you guys should be excited about this. We are probably living through in a sense, an industrial revolution, a business revolution, a revolution about how business is going to be done, how the market is going to be structured, how it all functions. It's exciting because it really is a unique moment in history. It's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated by how it all plays out. I don't think we're going to see a massive collapse because of AI in 2 years. Now, there might be a collapse. There might be a financial crisis for other reasons caused by all kinds of other stuff, but not AI. So it's exciting. And I'm curious about how it plays out. I don't know how it's going to play out. I can't imagine, unless the politicians intervene, and they could, I can't imagine a scenario where it plays out badly. But politicians might intervene, and it might play out badly. And of course, when it plays out badly, who will be blamed? Markets, AI, technology will be blamed. You said politicians might not be able to keep up, but the things that they might do might be so destructive that they don't have to keep up. One of the things they might do is so distort the markets that everything slows down to their pace. Or, for example, the other side, we need a UBI. We need a universal basic income because everybody's losing their jobs. So they'll raise taxes dramatically on internet companies, on technology companies, and try to redistribute all that wealth to the rest of the population, and all the distortive effects that has. You get a self-fulfilling prophecy in that case. So I don't know. But that's why I think this is super exciting. And instead of being excited, now, again, exciting doesn't mean go out and buy tech stocks, because you don't know who the winners are going to be. You don't know who the losers are going to be. I don't. I'm just excited to be alive while this happens. Now, if I was investing actively, yeah, I would look carefully into, okay, where do I think AI will impact first? And who's going to benefit? And who might suffer? Who might go out of business? Who might lose their jobs? Where can I make money? But if you've used AI a little bit, I have a little bit, it's unbelievably exciting. It makes me more productive, and I use it just a teeny bit, and I can only imagine how it's going to get better and how other people are using it and in more productive endeavors, and how it's going to make their lives much, much better. So yeah, I think the main thing, the main view of the world right now should be excitement and curiosity. Excitement and curiosity. All right. So it's kind of tragic that the doomsday stories are dominating. That's what people are focused on. All right. I think about liberating millions of some of the best minds we have from work that is relatively boring to think about exciting new possibility for the human race. That's amazing. That's amazing. All right, today is the 4th anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. If you remember 4 years ago, in 2022, after weeks of speculation, after weeks of Biden, urging Putin, and Macron flying to Moscow and trying to urge Putin not to do anything, Putin indeed invaded. He pushed through from the Donbass, tried to push there, but really invaded through every side of every border that Ukraine had, including the northern border from Belarus. The Russian hope was that they could take Kiev in days, subdue the government, replace it with a friendly Russian government, and the war would be over in days. Not only did we have columns coming in from the north, we had columns coming in from the northeast, and then you had special forces landing in the Kiev airport. Whoops.
The radical.
I didn't mean to do that.
Fundamental principles.
Whoops. I didn't mean to do that either. What am I doing?
The radical.
Sorry. So you had Russian troops coming in from all surrounding Kiev, and I think most military analysts were telling us it's a matter of a week, maybe 3 weeks. Kiev is going to be surrounded. Troops were coming in from the south. They were coming in from the east. They were coming in from the northeast and coming in from the north. And it looked hopeless, and the special forces were landing at Kiev airport, and it literally looked hopeless. And the Americans were urging Zelensky to leave and form a government in exile, because basically the United States had come to the conclusion that it was hopeless, that the Ukrainians were going to lose. And if you watch TV, every single commentator out there was saying, this is it, it's over, And Zelensky, to his credit, and I think he'll go down in history, basically said, I'm not leaving. I'm staying. I'm staying in Kiev. We will fight. And I think people were shocked and surprised. Now, I was keeping track. I remember the first couple of days of that. I was keeping track of what was going on and noticing a certain pattern of reports from the front line. And the pattern was basically that small groups of Ukrainian soldiers were basically stopping whole columns of Russian tanks and Russian armored vehicles by using Javelin anti-tank missiles, by using Western technology, and by taking advantage of the fact that these tanks were old, that soldiers were not motivated. And indeed, in the north and in the northeast, the columns were stopped, halted, and started advancing very, very slowly, if at all. And you saw these pictures of long columns of tanks and armored vehicles that the Ukrainians kept ambushing and destroying. And then at the Kiev airport, this amazing battle, which again, I think books and movies will be done about it in the future, where the Ukrainians basically fought off Russian special forces and forced them to retreat. And I think already at the end of day one, but certainly at day two, I basically said, this is not going to go Russia's way. They might win, they might take Ukraine, but it's going to take a lot longer than they think, a lot longer than all those military experts think. And the Ukrainians have got them, because Ukrainians have, Russian weapon systems suck. Russians are unmotivated to fight this war. Most soldiers don't know why they're fighting. Ukrainians are fighting for their homes, they're fighting for their land, they're fighting for their families, they're fighting for themselves. They're the motivated one. And since 2014, they had been armed with Western weapon systems, at least some Western weapon systems. And I think I called it back then. And indeed, in the months and in the year and a half that followed, the Ukrainians beat the Russians back, beat them all the way back to the border in the north and the northeast. And then later on, much of the east, the Kharkiv area was taken back, and they beat them back in the south, so that I forget the name of the city now, was recaptured and forced them to the other side of the river there. And Ukraine had immense success once the initial invasion happened. And that gets us into somewhere in the fall of 2023. At that point, Ukraine discovered that it couldn't move much further. The U.S. in particular was not supplying them with the latest, best weapon systems they could. Nobody had air superiority, so nobody could win the war in the air. Drones were becoming this big factor in the war. And what's happened since then is basically the equivalent of trench warfare, where armies move very, 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 very slowly. Russia has captured very little ground since that first initial invasion in 2022. It continues to push forward in the Donbass, the only place where they're really moving, but very little. And it's costing them unbelievable amounts of troops. We've talked about this. It looks like Putin's forces are suffering about 40,000 casualties a month over the last few months. These are unbelievable numbers, and he can't replace them. He can't recruit enough people in Russia to replace them. He's actually going as far as Africa to try to recruit people, to pay them to come and fight his war. The U.S. had an opportunity, particularly early on, to provide Ukraine with the weapon systems they needed to kick the Russian out completely. And the U.S. failed to do it. The Biden administration failed to do it. They were cowardly. Ooh, that'll be an escalation. We don't want to escalate. How do you escalate? It's war. Of course you want to escalate. And of course, Trump came in, and Trump since then has gone all in on taking Russia's side and denouncing Ukraine at every opportunity and presenting it as the villain. The Russian economy has become a war economy 4 years in. The Russian economy and the Ukrainian economy, both war economies. Ukraine has developed the capabilities and the skills to be maybe the world leader in the development of military-grade drones. I don't think there's anybody in the world who makes them better, faster, as adaptable to the battlefield as Ukraine does. It has developed over the last 4 years the ability to produce ballistic missiles, which it didn't have before. We saw that ballistic missile that's taken out significant Russian assets deep into Russia. And Ukraine has developed a kind of a modern drone-led military tactics and strategy that they're inventing on a day-to-day basis that the rest of the world is looking at and learning from. Russia's economy is completely war-based, which means standard of living is down, quality of life is down, GDP might be up because the government's spending money they don't have, inflation is way up, interest rates way up, business other than in the extracting oil and extracting natural resources is devastated. Russia exports more oil now than before the war, but at lower prices because it has to give discounts because of sanctions to people who are buying its oil. So Russia's economy is devastated. Ukraine, of course, economy is completely eviscerated. It suffers from massive drone and missile attacks every single day. Something like 13% of the entire housing stock in Ukraine is being destroyed. Power plants destroyed. Water plants destroyed. Agriculture still functions somehow, but much of the industry is shifted to war production or is being destroyed. Over the last year, support for Ukraine has shifted from heavy American support, although Europe bore the brunt of the support, to almost all Europe. The United States is giving nothing. Not a dollar, not a weapon system, nothing. Europeans are buying the weapons and giving them to Ukraine. Europe is right now trying to put this massive package of support for Ukraine. They try to have it ready, $106 billion over time for Ukraine. They want to have this package ready for today. And it was blocked by Hungary. Remember, the EU, everything is by, everybody has to vote for it. It's by unanimous appeal. And Orban of Hungary, the Trump administration's favorite politician in the world, maybe except for Putin, blocked it. So hard to tell exactly what's going to happen and how that gets unblocked and how the aid actually makes it. I'm sure it will ultimately, but you know, it's complicated. We'll note that today there were ceremonies commemorating the 4 years of war in Kiev, in Ukraine. Not a single U.S. administration representative was there. Nobody representing the United States of America. Europeans, other countries around the world, not America. We do not stand with the people defending their freedom. We do not stand with the people defending their country from aggression. We do not stand with the people fighting for freedom, for a system that is, you know, a liberal democracy, not bad. No. The Trump administration stands with the dictator. It stands with the aggressor. It stands with the authoritarian. It stands with the enemy of Western civilization, the enemy of America. Pretty disgusting. No, I don't think it's inappropriate to have ceremonies. I mean, the ceremonies to respect the casualties that they've suffered, to commemorate this horrible event, the beginning of this horrible event. It's mainly kind of respect for the people who have fallen and a recommitment to keep on fighting. To keep on fighting. Zelensky had a few choice words about Orban blocking the support. So, yeah. As I've said the last few days, Ukraine is fighting back the last few weeks. And indeed, over the last 3-4 weeks, they've liberated about 400 square kilometers, an additional 100 square kilometers just in the last 48 hours. So Ukraine is making small progress, nothing big, nothing major, small progress in trying to in trying to beat back the Russians. But without American support, America is giving them nothing, and this is really a travesty, a massive injustice, and renounds to the detriment of the United States. And I think a lot of Republican senators and congressmen know that, but they just won't stand up against Trump. They won't challenge Trump. Here again, Trump and the left agree that Russia are the good guys in this battle. All right, in the meantime, speculation abound about what's going to happen with Iran. Nobody knows. We had reports yesterday and today that the the head of the Joint Command, top general in the United States, has real questions about an attack. He's worried about the U.S. running out of ammo and not being able to, and this being dragged out and becoming a regional war. And, that this would be a disaster for the United States, and advising Donald Trump not to attack Iran. There's both the rumors that Trump wants to do something small just to kind of shake Iran up. But then the advice he's getting, if they do something small, what if they retaliate big time? And then you're committing yourself into something much more major without really having it all planned out. And then you've got Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who are going to meet with the Iranians later this week. And a lot of news stories are saying Trump's decision is going to be hinged on what Witkoff and Kushner tell him. And Witkoff and Kushner want a deal. They don't want a war, and they've made it clear. Witkoff has financial interests at stake. Right, I'll just say this off the chat. America doesn't own Ukraine endless support. That's true. America doesn't own Ukraine any support. America owes itself to support Ukraine. It shouldn't do it for the Ukrainians. It should do it for itself. And why I think it's in America's rational, long-term, self-interest to arm the Ukrainians to the hilt to beat back the Russians, check out my talks about the Ukraine-Russian war, why, other than the Iran issue, this is the most important issue of the day. It's geopolitically crucial for American self-interest and for the protection of American interests. It will save us a huge amount of money and life and blood and weapon systems when we have to confront the Russians directly. So much better get it over with other people doing the fighting than having to engage in the fighting yourself. And the reality is that Donald Trump has not taken the United States out of NATO, and therefore by treaty, we are committed to defending NATO countries. And if you think Putin is going to stop with Ukraine, you got to be kidding me. And it's the same with Iran. I don't believe the United States should be attacking Iran in order to free the Iranian people. That would be great. Freeing the Iranian people is wonderful for the Iranian people, but we should not be sacrificing our treasure or lives for the sake of the Iranian people. However, it's in Americans' geopolitical self-interest. It's part of protecting the life and property of Americans that is necessary, essential, and it has been for 40 years, to take out the Iranian regime. We're not doing it for the Iranians, not doing it for the Ukrainians. Do it for Americans, for the one job that America has, which is the protection of the individual rights of Americans. Prevent bloodshed of Americans. Ukraine should be supported, and Iran should be eliminated. And Trump is dithering, and he's letting military experts, including General Dan Kane, the Joint Chief of Staff chairman, who is, by all accounts, a competent general, but as always, overestimating the strength of the enemy. They didn't learn anything from the 12-Day War. They didn't learn anything from Israel's success. And they're dithering. And there's a good chance that the general and J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, supposedly within the administration, the two anti-war people, J.D. Vance, not surprising, Tulsi, not surprising, an apologist for the Iranians forever, the two of them are the most adamantly anti-war, and there's a chance that they convince Trump. I don't know. I have no insight into what's happening, beyond what I read in the media and my sources. But it looks like the general's against this. Although Trump came out and said, no, General Kane is not against the war. But go figure what's actually going on and what the reality actually is. I fear that they are all risk averse, and it could be that the general is saying, I wouldn't be surprised if this was the case. The general is saying, look, we could take the Iranians out quite easily. That wouldn't be that hard. But do we really want to do it with Trump as our commander-in-chief? He's such a flake. He is so unpredictable. He is so emotional that maybe we shouldn't risk it with this guy as commander-in-chief. That is very possible. That could be what they're thinking. Anyway, we will see. The meeting with Witkoff is, I think, on Thursday. I'm not sure where the USS Ford is. Let's see if we can find out. It's showing no sign that it is heading towards the Suez Canal to cross into the Arabian Sea. So it could very well be that it's just going to sit in the Eastern Mediterranean, off the coast of Israel, and provide support for knocking down ballistic missiles and drones from there, rather than get closer to Iran and provide offensive firepower. So everything's in position. Trump could make the call at any time, at any day. And somebody says they've heard that the Ford is docking in Haifa. Well, it wouldn't dock in Haifa. It would dock off the coast of Haifa, and they'd use boats to let the seamen off. I wouldn't be surprised. The seamen sound like they need a break. They need to let off some steam before any war breaks out, and they might let them off in Haifa to do exactly that. But, we will see. We will see if Trump makes a decision. Does he ever make a decision? And so on. It is interesting that, this is a story in the Wall Street Journal today. Weeks after Trump pardoned Binance founder, Binance was the crypto company, the company dismantled Probe and suspended. So there was weeks after Trump pardoned the Binance founder, the people at Binance fired staff who had flagged a $1 billion move to Iran entities that are sanctioned by the U.S. So they basically ended the inquiry in it, ended all the problems in it, and let the money go. So again, the people within the Trump administration who are quite happy to see Iran get that money and want to cut a deal ultimately with Iran, want the business with the Iranians. I don't know. Here's another story. Now, I think a lot of these stories are just geared to trying to convince Trump not to engage in a war. But here's a story saying Israeli intelligence have concluded that even with the imminent arrival of the USS Gerald Ford, the U.S. has military capacity to sustain just a 4 or 5 day intense aerial assault or a week of lower intensity strikes. Again, that seems strange to me. It's possible, but strange given that Israel managed to do 12 days without having aircraft carriers, without being in the vicinity of Iran. Israel has significantly more ammo than the Americans. It doesn't have more planes than what America's brought into the region. So I don't know. And Israel doesn't have B-52s or B-2s. Very, very tough to say. Very tough to say. Another story says the amount of money transferred to Iranian entities was $1.7 billion. That's a lot of money by Binance. All right, quickly, let's do this. We got three. All right, let's do this quickly. A big chip deal happened today. Meta and AMD. AMD is a chip manufacturer, a chip designer. Meta is of course Meta, Facebook. They signed a deal for AI chips. AMD is positioning itself as the #1 competitor to NVIDIA. This will be worth supposedly $100 billion. Meta will probably land up owning about 10% of AMD stock. And again, AMD has positioned itself to be a significant competitor to NVIDIA. Note that the government has put all its chips on Intel. Intel's not a player. AMD's the player. And yet, again, the government is trying to pick winners and losers. Capital is flowing to Intel when it shouldn't be flowing to Intel. Intel's the loser here. But it won't lose because the government is supporting it. In the meantime, right? Now, note that AMD does not fabricate chips. It designs them. The chips are fabricated. The chips are fabricated by TSMC in Taiwan. And, you know, we still have this situation where 90+% of all the high-end chips that the United States uses, including for defense, are made in Taiwan, easily susceptible to Chinese assault, to a war with China. Apple is trying to remedy this, or is working to remedy this. It's trying to push for chips high-end chips, the highest end chips to be designed, to be made, fabricated in the United States. Indeed, right now in Phoenix, there is a stretch of land outside of Phoenix, about 30 minutes north of Phoenix, which is about, the land is about 2.5 times the size of Central Park in New York. That's a big piece of land. Right now, there are about 30 cranes, and what they're doing is they're building a mammoth chip manufacturing facility where the hope is that TSMC, the Taiwanese company, will start building the highest, most advanced chips. The reason TSMC is doing this, partially they get a subsidy from the Biden-era CHIPS Act, but maybe more importantly than that is that Apple has basically said, Apple is TSMC's, I think, largest customer. Apple has basically said that it wants to buy the chips made in the American chip factory. My guess is they're willing to pay a slightly higher price in order to get it in the United States. It's trying to, I guess, friendshore or onshore its supply chain. And it is planning to spend about $600 billion in the United States. Generally, most of that going to be buying chips from manufacturers in the United States. TSMC is spending $165 billion to build 6 chip plants. Most of them going to be in that Phoenix area. So chip manufacturing might be coming to the U.S. We will see. We still got a long way to go. They still not only have to build the plants, they have to have the power, they have to have the water. This is Phoenix after all. They then have to have the employees. And it's going to be difficult to bring in employees from South Korea. We've learned that. They're going to have to find local employees who are qualified, who are trained to do this. And then it's going to, I think customers will now be a problem because I think, the Defense Department is motivated to buy these chips. Apple is motivated to buy these chips. So it is going to be interesting. Apple has also announced that it's expanding its Houston operations with a plan to assemble the Mac Mini in Houston. Now, in the past, when Apple has tried to build computers in the U.S., it's flopped and been a disaster, right? All right. Just quickly, there's this phenomena of prediction markets. People betting on different outcomes on prediction markets that are now legal, and these are now companies. We have 2 companies that dominate the space right now: Kashi and Polymarket. They are both raised a huge amount of money, and they're basically trading in predictions. Any prediction you want. Somebody wants to start a prediction about whether Powell will lower interest rates or not. There's a market to be made. Or when, if Trump will be impeached, or if Democrats will win the House, or who will win the next basketball game, or who will win the NBA Finals, whose teams are going to be there. All of that, from economic predictions about what the trade deficit will be, what the inflation number will come in as, or what all of these things will be, to political predictions, to cultural predictions. There's a market in all of those. People love to bet. And of course, people like prediction markets because people are putting their money where their mouth is. So it's not just like a poll. This is what people are willing to bet. And the assumption is that the more you know, the more you have inside information, the more you'll be willing to put into the prediction. And therefore, the prediction market is a well-informed market because it allows for insider trading. Interesting. that there seems to be an understanding of the value of insider trading when it comes to prediction markets, but not an understanding of insider trading when it comes to the stock market. Anyway, big financial institutions are getting involved. Susquehanna Capital, the largest options trading company in the world, has a new trading desk that places bets on events, like from what Bitcoin's going to be to Taylor Swift's, how many people are going to attend the concert. You've got Wall Street companies investing and participating, and this has become really, really big business. I haven't seen any studies. I'm sure they have been, but it'd be interesting to see the studies that look at the efficaciousness of these prediction markets. One assumes that they're doing quite well in terms of actual accuracy of prediction. That's why people keep looking at them, participating in them, and quoting them. The volume of trade, the amount of money circulating, has grown exponentially just in the last few months. I mean, this is new. This really started in 2024 and really has only picked up since the middle of 2025, but is now, way up there. Again, the two main markets are Kalshi and Poly market. So interesting, something to watch. And again, they raised a lot of money. They raised a lot of money just recently. Right? I think 3.7 billion went to those two companies just recently. All right, finally, I've told you that there's welfare fraud everywhere, not just in Minneapolis, not just among Somalis. Here's one. I pick up these stories once in a while, and I think that this is worth reporting. The former head of a San Francisco homelessness nonprofit, San Francisco homelessness. Surprise, surprise. They throw the money at it, nothing happens. That's because the money doesn't get to where it's supposed to go. In this case, she's being charged with 9 felonies. She admitted that she hired her friends and family. Not hired. She's actually placed friends and family into housing that was supposed to go to the homeless people. But there is a ton of this, just a ton, particularly, I'd say, in San Francisco among the homeless, because so much money is being thrown at it. You can tell where there's fraud. Anywhere the government is writing big checks to nonprofits to do what the government claims it's good to do, there's massive fraud. There's just no way that is not fraudulent. There's massive fraud going on in the background. So, we will see how this all plays out, but you'll see more and more stories. And of course, we know that the COVID was just the COVID bailouts and the COVID checks and all the COVID programs were just primed for fraudulent activity. All right, that is the news for this Tuesday, February 24th. All right, let's take a look at, we'll move to Super Chat in a minute, but let me remind you, one, that I'm doing a seminar in London on Saturday, this coming Saturday, just a few more days. You don't have a lot of time to register, please register. I have a room, I have more seats available, and I booked a slightly larger room, but it's going to be a small group. It's going to be less than 10 people, but it'd be great if we got another 2, 3, 4 people. That would just improve the dynamics of the whole experience. It'll be a lot of fun. We're talking about capitalism, and again, small group, lots of time for questions, lots of time for back and forth. So join us in London. If you're in the UK, take the train, come on in. It's Friday from 1 to 5. You can find information about it on my website, yaronbrookshow.com, yaronbrookshow.com. Scroll down to the event section and then go to the London, February 28th, click on tickets, and you can register. I'm hoping there are a few people out there listening right now. You know who you are. In London, who sign up and join us for the program. All right, the Enlightenment Institute is holding their European conference this year in Porto in Portugal, a wonderful city. So you guys can still sign up for it. It's in April, mid-April, weekend of April 18th. I'll be there on call and tell it's funny. I'll be speaking there. And if you're under 34, you can apply for a scholarship. And if you're not under 34, or if you're not going to apply for a scholarship, you can get a discount, 10% discount. The discount code is 26YBS10. Check it out, aynrand.org/start here, aynrand.org/start here, right? And it's a really nice city. It's a really nice venue. It's going to be a great conference. Don't miss out. If you're in Europe, come on over. Even if you're on the East Coast in the US, it's not that long of a flight. Come on over. If you're in the UK, you should come on over. Alex Epstein is the #1 leading authority on energy, electricity, fossil fuels, environmentalism, climate change. He has an amazing Substack. Talking Points by Alex. You'll learn so much about these industries. You'll learn how to talk about it. You'll learn facts that will defeat your opponents in any kind of debate. So check him out. Alex Epstein.substack.com. AlexEpstein.substack.com. HendershotWealth.com/YBS. Hendershot Wealth, the money managers that have a product that can save you a lot of money on your capital gains tax liability. Capital gains tax liability. So check that out. You can find my interview with Robert Hendershot. So if you've got stock that's appreciated, or you're going to sell a company, it has to be like 7-figure profits, where you're going to pay 6-figure taxes. And so check out the interview I did with Robert. It's on my YouTube channel under playlists for sponsors. And check out the website, hendershot.com, hendershotwealth.com, 2 T's, hendershotwealth.com/YBS. And then finally, Defenders of Capitalism. Defenders of Capitalism is a program.com, defendersofcapitalism.com. Check out the website, really nice website, lots of information there. It's a program to defend capitalism politically, economically, and morally, philosophically. And it's the best program out there in the world, defending capitalism. And check it out, see if it's applicable, if it's something you would like to bring into your company or your group, and whether this is something of interest to you. Check out defendersofcapitalism.com. This is Michael Williams' project, which I have worked on with him. And finally, if you haven't yet done it, please become a monthly supporter of the Yaron Brook Show. The monthly contributions are really valuable because I know exactly what's coming every month. You can do that on PayPal or on Patreon, patreon.com. Just put in Yaron Brook Show, and you can do it at $2, $10, $500, $1,000. The more the better, of course, but whatever you value the show at and whatever your financial abilities dictate. Please consider supporting the Yaron Brook Show with a contribution. And I think that's my announcements. And now let's jump into the questions. I have a hard stop at some point. Let me also thank some of the sticker people. Ooh, not a lot of stickers up there. There we go. Greg, thank you. And Nick, Enric, and Jackson, thank you guys. Really appreciate the support. We got a bunch of $50 questions, mostly by Dave. Thank you, Dave. But not only by Dave. So thank you, Dave. Let's start with Remo. 60 euro. Thank you, Remo. Remo says, thoughts on American right trying to hijack their U.S. ice hockey gold medal. Why do so many Americans have to turn such a great victory into politics? Well, because, sports is often politicized. Look, It used to be that, it was the U.S. versus the USSR. And that was a huge thing, and that was politicized because there were good guys and bad guys. The USSR was objectively bad. So the victory of the good over the bad was politicized, and that's good. However, in the Trump era, the bad guys happen to be the Canadians. Why are they the bad guys? I don't know, because Trump decided at some point to piss them off. So the rivalry got a political tinge to it because of Trump, for no other reason. And so Canada was the fill-in for the USSR in this hockey game. And it played out like the famous game but in 1980 between the US and the USSR, where the US won. And it played out very similar, but the idea that the American right considers Canada the enemy is ludicrous and insane. But this is where the right is. Nationalism up the kazoo, and it's on steroids. And it's a disgusting, horrible form of nationalism because it doesn't differentiate between truly evil countries and good countries. It doesn't differentiate between friends, allies, and enemies. Indeed, Trump is much, 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 much closer to America's enemies than to America's allies and friends. So, a large extent should tell you everything you need to know about Donald Trump. Dave, thank you, Dave. Dave says, per the dim hypothesis, do you believe high-functioning integrators are irrational for exchanging value for value with disintegrated, misintegrated minds? I mean, no. I mean, look, I'm not exactly sure what you mean here, but the reality is that people of ability, in this case, the ability to integrate, have not yet given up on this world. And have not said it's time to go on strike. I mean, this is the Atlas Shrugged question. And as long as you're still engaged with this world, the only way to be engaged in this world is by engaging in win-win, value-adding transactions, trade. And yes, that means some of the bad guys win as a consequence. And you should minimize helping your explicit enemies, like don't give money to your alma mater, don't trade. Be careful how you trade with universities. But, in political parties. But other than that, it's just life requires trade. Life requires production. Unless you're ready and willing to go on strike, I don't see what the option is. I don't see what the option is. Let me take Dave's 3 questions and then offer $50. Thank you, Dave. Do you believe that AI will be capable of auto-judging the decisions made by public servants, politicians, or legal practitioners in general? Well, I mean, I think that some legal decisions they'll be able to make, the ones that are basically explicitly, clearly rules-based, that you can go from A to B to C, and there's no judgment to be made. The judgment is just the sequence following the rules. Where AI cannot function is where the rules are not set in place, where you have to make judgments about the rules, or where the rules are ambiguous, or where the steps are ambiguous. AI cannot deal with ambiguity. So I think that remember, AI is not conscious. It's not reasoning. It's doing some kind of statistical manipulation and analysis, correlation, and running regressions, basically, kind of. So it's amazing how well it works. It's amazing what it can do. But it can fill out forms. But it can't make real what we consider judgments, choices, decisions. And in that sense, no, it can't replace politicians. It can certainly replace an IRS agent. It can replace your accountant in many cases. But it can't replace the kind of political, philosophical, principled ideas about government and how that government should function. So it can't make legal values estimates. It can't do value estimates. It can only follow the rules. Only follow the rules. Dave also asks, whoops. In your opinion, what does a selfish America look like in the context of global enterprise? I mean, a selfish America is an America that is completely open to trade. It has zero tariffs. It's a country that refuses to trade with its explicit enemies, but trades with everybody else with no barriers. Again, unilateral, zero tariffs. America, a selfish America, identifies its enemies, figures out the costs of dealing with them, whether it's better to deal with them through military confrontation or whether it's better to deal with them through political and economic isolation, and deals with them honestly and upfront. So, for example, Russia is not an enemy you want military confrontation with because of nukes. This is why it's good to let the Ukrainians do the fighting for you. Iran, on the other hand, doesn't have nukes yet, so it's much easier just to eliminate the regime. And you should do that. North Korea is tricky because they have nukes. So it's much better to isolate and build up a capability to destroy their nukes in case that was needed. So America needs to pursue its own interest. In that sense, a true America first foreign policy needs to be embraced. And that means you trade with everybody except your enemies at zero tariffs. And you establish a league of free nations. You leave the United Nations. You stop funding the United Nations and all its various spin-offs. And you basically focus on what is truly long-term, rationally in America's self-interest. And mostly that doesn't involve doing much. Protecting the shipping lanes, destroying a few enemies, and hunkering home and let trade rip. Yep. All right, not the average algorithm, also $50. Thank you, guys. Lots of $50 questions today. I really appreciate it. My parents never taught me reality is objective and knowable through reason, or that I should pursue happiness. They taught me the exact opposite. Should I sever any contact with them, trying to destroy my psycho-epistemology at such a vulnerable age? Well, I don't think so, right? I mean, they didn't know any better. I mean, whose parents actually taught them reason and the pursuit of happiness? Almost none. So you have to make the estimate of, you know, they brought you into the world. You owe them something for that. You know, your life is good. Did overall they treat you bad, even if they tried to destroy your psycho-epistemology? They didn't do it on purpose. They didn't know that what they were doing, unless you think they're vicious. If you think they're vicious, then yeah, cut them off. And then you have to think, what kind of relationship do you want with them? What kind of relationship is of value to you? And it might be very minimal because you have very little in common with them. It might be more than very minimal. You have to make up the decision, but I wouldn't penalize them for something almost everybody does, and that they do it mostly innocently. Again, unless you know that they knew better and they did it viciously in order to cripple you. I doubt that that's the case. All right, Jamie from Canada. leftist joke. Ayn Rand, Ron Paul, and Rand Paul walk into a bar. They die from tainted alcohol due to zero regulation. Does state quality control inspections prevent accidental death in food that free market can miss? Maybe, but it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely. Because the reality is that the best incentive to prevent accidental death from food is the risk that somebody will die from the food and sue you and drive you out of business. The reality is that there are so many ways in which the market can provide a better regulatory product than the government. So, for example, even today, supermarkets go to farms and make sure that the stuff they're buying from the farms is, clean and not, doesn't have whatever, E. coli or whatever. And farmers generally are much more worried about the supermarket inspectors than they are about the FDA inspectors. Because the FDA inspector has nothing to lose if he gets it wrong. The supermarket has a huge amount to lose if it gets it wrong. So the idea that if there was no government inspection, there would be no inspection, that if there was no government regulation, there would be no regulation, is ridiculous. I generally think that food and products and workplaces would be far, far safer without government regulations. Would be far, far safer in a truly free market. Imagine if Yelp or OpenTable or Resy, any one of these places that recommend restaurants, had their own food inspectors and gave restaurants, grades based on their inspection. And they would list restaurants that don't allow their inspectors in. And you as a consumer would decide whether you want to go there or not. I mean, there's so many ways in which the market could solve this problem 1,000 times better than the government can. Think about the incentive of a government FDA inspector going to a farm or to a supermarket or to a restaurant. Not much. James, one of the reasons the Nazi Party was successful was they were able to convince the public they were the only party strong enough to stop the left. The same tactic MAGA is using. Will it work? Well, not if what the public experiences from MAGA, from Trump, is so horrible that they're willing to risk taking on the left again. But yes, I mean, the two political parties today have nothing really to offer the voters other than we're not the other guys. We're not the crazy Trumpists, or we're not the crazy leftists. Neither one has a positive, life-enhancing agenda. All they can pitch is negativity. All they can pitch is we're not the other guy. James, the Republican Party has a Nazi problem, right? The GOP has become a haven for slogans and ideas straight out of the Third Reich. Yeah, I mean, it's still at the fringes. It's among young Republicans, but it's definitely there, and they've got a real problem. And the consequence of that might be, hopefully, that they lose big time in the elections. But what happens long term? Somebody has to come up with a positive agenda or create a third party or some alternative to the crazies on the left and the crazies on the right. It ain't happening yet, and I don't see who is going to put it together, but it needs to happen. Liam, two-part question. When I went to England, I tried to convince people that the NHS needs to be completely privatized. From the reaction is received, I thought I may get lynched. Brits are religiously committed to communist healthcare system that kills them. It may take a few hundred years for Europe to become objectivist. America could probably do it in 100. You know, who knows? It's hard to tell. These things can change very quickly, and different countries can change quite a bit. But there's no question that in Great Britain, the NHS is religion. It is. I said this publicly. I said it in the UK. I've, of course, debated this question of the NHS. And it is religion. They won't even consider. You're at risk of being lynched if you argue against the NHS. And it's completely irrational, it's completely emotional, and it's completely devoid of any factual information. And when you try to bring facts, they stuff their ears. They don't want to listen. Shahzad, if Iran is defeated, should it be renamed Persia? I don't know. The Iranians will get to decide. The people locally there will get to decide how the rest of the world should call them, Persians or Iranians. I don't know. I don't really know the history of the term Iran, where it actually came from. All right. Jamie, I guess a two-part question. Follow-up question from the other day. In your wage productivity video, you show graph where hourly compensation line excludes CEOs, but productivity line doesn't. If CEO wage was included, wage line would rise, and presumably if CEO productivity was excluded, that line would fall. So how can CEO productivity and CEO and worker be represented on the same line if one's tangible, one's not? Well, I did not say CEO. What I said was all managerial is excluded. And you can, on the productivity line, you can look at total productivity. You just can't separate it out in terms of worker and CEO. But on the income line, you can separate it out. So all you need to do is include in that income, not just CEOs, programmers. I mean, that was blue collar. I can't remember the exact specifications, but it didn't include the high productive jobs over the last 20 years. And the number of jobs in the line of wages shrunk during the period, while those people left and got more productive jobs, or their kids did, in technology, for example. So tech jobs are not included there. So it's not the CEO, it's everybody. It's everybody other than the kind of hourly worker, blue-collar worker. But you can count the CEO in the productivity number. What you can do is separate out, I think explicitly, what share of the increased productivity is attributable to the CEO. That's, I think, what I was arguing the other day. Thomas says, I share your antipathy for the Iranian regime. However, two things. One, I don't trust Trump to conduct any military action honestly and competently. He is utterly unqualified to be commander-in-chief. Yeah, I agree. I 100% believe that it is foundational principle of the republic that the president cannot make war merely at his pleasure. Congressional approval is required. I agree with that as well. And he should take it to Congress, get a resolution approved, and do it. Luckily, I don't think that Trump himself actually would manage the war. And his generals are quite competent. And maybe if he includes the Israelis will take care of business, no matter what the Americans do. So, yes, he absolutely has to take this to Congress, get congressional approval, and then I'd rather see a war than not. Even with Trump, because he's going to screw up the non-war, and that might be a bigger screw-up than screwing up the war itself. But yes, there should be a congressional declaration of war. Hasn't happened in a long time. Needs to happen. James, how was the Enlightenment able to beat Nazism and communism despite all its flaws and incompleteness? because it fundamentally leaves the human mind free to innovate, produce, and fight for its freedom. Freedom will beat authoritarianism every single time because the mind requires freedom in order to produce, particularly at the high level required to innovate in wartime. So it doesn't surprise me at all that Enlightenment, with all its flaws, can beat something as flawed and disastrous as Nazism and communism. The question should be, how did Nazism and communism even get any success against Enlightenment values? That's the question that should be asked. Not your average algorithm. While Israel has high taxes and socialist healthcare, I heard Israel has less of a welfare state because they need people independent and working to sustain the countries surrounded by enemies. Is that a joke? I'm laughing aloud, which is pretty rare because that's funny. And I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing at the statement. Absolutely not. Israel has a robust, large welfare state. And it's had it since its founding. And, Israel used to be socialist. The unions in Israel used to be all powerful, and they used to actually own the means of production. The unions owned the factories. So no, Israel has a very robust welfare state. And it's less robust than it used to be. It's being trimmed a little bit, but yeah, there's definitely a welfare state in Israel. I wish it didn't. Roman, prediction markets are information trading. The more they mature, the more inside information will enter the public space and improve decision making. Yes, but stock markets are information trading too. So why won't we allow inside information there? There's no difference. Dave, thank you, Dave. Should democratizing Iran be a national security goal for the United States? Not really. What we want is a regime that is friendly to the U.S. And that could be, ideally, that would be a kind of democratic regime. But it's not essential. Democracy is more stable than, let's say, another Shah. So that would be the ideal, but I wouldn't risk the lives of troops in order to attain it, right? So more important is to get rid of this regime, to get rid of any Islamist regime, because the Islamist regime is a threat to the United States. What replaces it is less of an interest in terms of willingness to use force and risk lives of Americans. Hopper Campbell, would Trump ever threaten or intimidate the Supreme Court? Is the court afraid of him or just think he's a clown? I think some of the Supreme Court think he's a clown. Would he threaten or intimidate the Supreme Court? Potentially. We will see. I mean, he already is implying threats. He's ridiculing them. But we'll see if he's willing to literally threaten them. I mean, he might tonight. Let's see what he says tonight. Hopper Campbell, are administrative warrants like the ones ICE used invalid? Only judicial warrants are legitimate. Yes, they're not valid. They shouldn't be valid, put it that way. This is granting the executive branch way too much power. Way too much power. Because they're not part of the judiciary. They're part of the executive branch, the people who issue these warrants. They're part of the administrative state. And absolutely that is wrong. And I hope a court case comes in front of the Supreme Court so that Gorsuch can write a scathing opinion about it. All right, the left, this is newly done. The left claims that AI data centers are forcing residents of that area an increase of energy bills. The right and left believe AI will become the Terminator. Yes, generally there's agreement between left and right about the evils of AI, sadly, but not surprising at all. Supposedly, Trump will announce today in the State of the Union that the AI companies have agreed to pay for their increased usage of electricity separately. So there would be price discrimination. between what these companies pay and the rest of consumers. I always thought that was illegal, so I'm not sure how exactly he's implementing that. But if the law allowed for price discrimination, then it would be easy. You charge more money for the increased load that the AI plants generate. So Trump supposedly is solving that problem as part of his affordability, attack on affordability or lack of affordability. Newly then, is common sense the same as that which is self-evident? No. Self-evident is a tricky concept because there's very little that's self-evident. But common sense is primitive reasoning. It's low-level logic. It's like simple rationality. It's not a useful term. It's not a useful term. Did I say Thomas would write a scathing review of it? I meant Gorsuch if I said Thomas. Clog, I initially believed Trump was not an ideologue, that he only cared for prestige and attention, not arbitrary power. But his power lust is manifesting chaotically. Again, I don't think he's an ideologue. He likes power. He likes to exert power. But he doesn't have some grand ambition. And he does it chaotically, partially because he has nothing to guide him. No ideology to guide his power lust. Clark, will Trump diminish the tariffs he is allowed to still apply if it really hurts the stock market and his associates in the business community tell him to stop? Probably, although the stock market seems to have done okay in spite of the tariffs. It seems to not be affected by his tariff moves a lot. I mean, I'm sure at the margin it is. It would have to be a pretty big move by the stock market to impact Trump's decision making, like it had in April of last year. Ian, what exactly are you referring to by Apple trying to make chips in the US? I can't find evidence of that. They did use Motorola and Intel chips. No, these are TSMC chips. But they will buy them from TSMC plants in the United States. So they're investing money, telling TSMC that they will buy the chips that TSMC produces in the US and giving them an incentive to do so. It's in the Wall Street Journal today, or yesterday. I think it's today. So it's not that they will fabricate the chips themselves. They already designed the chips themselves. They won't fabricate the chips. They will buy them from TSMC based on Apple designs, but from plants, manufacturing plants in the United States. At least that is the story. I like numbers. Isn't private sector regulation an ANCAP argument? No, not at all. Regulation is not the role of government. There's no role of government in regulating business. The market regulates business. The market, provides the kind of the function of what do you call it? Quality control and safety control and all those things. That's not ANCAP, because it's not a policing function. Regulations are not policing. ANCAP say police should be market, and that is wrong. And the judiciary should be market, and that is wrong. Gail says, in Canada, universal healthcare is religion too. Yeah, it's just a much younger religion. In Britain, it goes back to the post-World War II era. It's got a long history. No, Thomas is an awful, somebody says, you said Gorsuch, I say Thomas is usually more reliable. No, Thomas is awful. Look at his ruling on Friday. It was just, I mean, I used to respect Thomas. I thought he was the best judge in the court, 10 years ago. But he has just descended into Trump zombie land. He wrote the worst opinion on Friday. Gorsuch is now by far the best justice on the court on most issues, certainly on issues related to the administrative state. He is far better than Thomas. Thomas is a complete sellout to the state, as long as the state is run by Trump. So I have now gone from fairly high respect for Thomas to basically close to zero respect for him. He's terrible, and he's completely unreliable. I mean, Gorsuch has problems too, but on the administrative state stuff, he is the best by far on the Supreme Court. Thomas doesn't come even close. Rafael, would you advise my sister to move out of Mexico? She's currently in Puerto Escondido. I mean, not yet. I would want to see what happens and how this evolves. Does it evolve into a civil war? If it does, then yeah, I would get out of there. She might want to, leave right now and go on vacation somewhere, come visit you in Portugal for a couple of weeks to see how it all pans out. But I wouldn't necessarily say that long-term this is going to have a huge impact on her life. I think we have to wait and see. And she should protect herself now and then make a decision with more information. Thank you, Rafael. Thank you, guys. I will see you all tomorrow. Don't forget, if you're in the UK, to sign up today to the course on capitalism that I am giving on Saturday in London, on Saturday, the 20th of February, so just in 5 days. And I am hopeful that I will see you all tomorrow, that we'll do a short show, relatively short show, just before my flight. Have a great rest of your week. If I don't see you, otherwise, see you tomorrow.